Hey, what's up, people? Hardleg Joe's Hands here, along with Twitch Chat. Twitch Chat is here. I'm live on Twitch. I mean, not right now, I'm not live on Twitch. If you're seeing this now, unless you're in the audience, this is probably because I've edited it and it's on YouTube and everything. But I'm here today to count down the top 100 Yu-Gi-Oh cards of all time. And in order to calculate that, I've brought Twitch Chat along. I have this list right here. This is not in order. This is just a list of candidates. I've been asking people on my Discord, asking the Twitch Chat today, and asking people on Twitter, and just seeing what cards do they think are the best of all time. And by the best, I mean basically a combination of every positive quality you can think of. How powerful it is, how many decks it's good in, how long it's been good, has it impacted the game, has it changed sort of like the meta game, has it like changed the way we talk about cards. And perhaps strangely of all, I'm also going to include things like whether or not it's like a good meme or whether or not people know about it, if it's famous. Everything that could be considered a positive quality of a card, that's all included in here. So we're just going to do the top 100 of all time. And I have no idea how long this is going to take. I have no idea what we're going to do, but we're going to try to do it, and then I'm going to try to edit it out. Honorable mentions. Anything on here is already an honorable mention. Anything on this list is considered one of the best cards of all time, but we have 165 of them, which means 65 need to be taken off, and we need to put them in order. It makes sense to start with number 1 and work your way back, but that doesn't exactly make for a very interesting video, does it? If you just start with that, I think we need to do the harder route and start with like 100 and work our way down. And I think how we do that is first getting it down to 100. We need to go on here and be like, okay, what is staying? What needs to be taken off the list because it's not powerful enough? So just starting off, like, Pot of Greed, definitely gonna be on the list. Actually, let me put there we go, equal sign. That way it'll be easy to tell. Graceful Charity, probably in the top 100. Like Monster Reborn, easy to say. Stratos. We call things Stratos. Stratos is a meme. He's one of the best elemental heroes. We're keeping him on here. Cyber Dragon changed the game. Instant Fusion. I think Instant Fusion's one of the first you might be able to make an argument for. Because what Instant Fusion does is it's one of the few cards that, like, cheats a monster out of the extra deck. But it wasn't the first card that did that. It was just the most meta impactful card that could do that. Like, you had Magical Scientist and stuff before that, and even, like, Metamorphosis and everything. Instant Fusion is just like, well, you can use it for, like, Synchro. Did they really use Instant Fusion for Synchro combos? I remember it becoming a thing around, like, Ixie format, but I forget if you used it for anything else. But yeah, just let me know in the chat, real quick. Instant Fusion, Yi or Cut? Okay, I'm seeing a lot more Yis than I'm seeing cuts, so I think I'm going to keep Instant Fusion. Instant Fusion, important. Elder Entity Norden. And here's another one that's kinda, cut, it's good because Instant Fusion. Yeah, because Instant Fusion kind of made Norden. Norden wouldn't be anything if not for Instant Fusion being able to cheat it out of the extra deck. Because no one hard made Elder Entity Norden. Okay, you know what, I'm gonna put Norden. We're gonna give him a plus. That's a maybe. That's a maybe for Norden. He's not off the list, but he's one of the ones if we have to come back. Boral Sword Dragon. I feel like if you're gonna choose a link, Boral Sword's like one of the best. It gives the deck like, it gives every deck the ability to OTK. Dark Magician, gotta keep it. Blue Eyes, definitely. Dark Arm Dragon, it had its own format. You had Tier 0 Dad format. Definitely gotta keep. Unizombie, for all the zombies. It's done all the things. We gotta keep that one. Trishula, for the memes. I think for the memes. I feel like we need a card to represent, like, all the not once per turn burn cards. But I feel like it's either we've either gotta have Mass Driver, or we've gotta have, like, Cannon Soldier. And Mass Driver is the one that got banned. Cannon Soldier is the one that's still around. Arguably, Cannon Soldier sees more play, but obviously Mass Driver was the more important one. Yi or cut on Mass Driver? So we got our first Mass Driver off the list. Mass Driver gone. So then moving on, Dragon Ruler. We've gotta have a Dragon Ruler. Mechanical Chaser. It was at one time in Caveman Yu-Gi-Oh! One of the best cards. I feel like it would be really high, like it would be like 100, but Mechanical Chaser has to be on there for the impact it had on Yu-Gi-Oh! At the time. I'm just gonna do one Dragon Ruler, because I feel like all the Dragon Rulers are interchangeable. So I'm just going to put the best Dragon Ruler on here, and that counts as that one. You think Redox is the best Dragon Ruler. Exodia. We gotta put Exodia on there. Polymerization, it was like the first extra deck thing. We gotta keep Polymerization there. Thousand Eyes Restrict. This was the card you cheated out with, like, Metamorphosis. This, like, made GOAT format. But at the same time, it's simple removal. People still play Thousand Eyes Restrict. It's one of the oldest cards. It's a staple in GOAT. You can't cut it. We've gotta keep GOAT format. Okay. Seeing the Yees have it. Ash Blossom, gotta keep. Towers, gotta keep. Blackluster Soldier, again, defined like a generation, still pretty good. Firewall Dragon, gotta be on there. So, Garnet was one of the other ones. Because I feel like, on the one hand, Garnet kind of created the idea of, I mean, we call things Garnets. But it's not a good card. It's never been a good card. It's only good because of Brilliant Fusion. So should I just put Brilliant Fusion on the list and cut out Garnet? So give me after you hear my argument, yee or cut on Garnet. We're going to put this as an honorable mention. You never want to use Garnet. If we put Garnet, we'll be like, it's a maybe. It's one of those things. Gamecill, the Sea Turtle Kaiju. You've got to put a Kaiju on there. The Winged Dragon of Ra and Sphere Mode. We've got both of them. I wanted to put one of the Egyptian gods. I feel like an Egyptian god has to be in the top 100 almost. Add Slifer. Slifer is cooler, but Ra is the better card. I believe. Obelisk is the better one. Obelisk saw some play. Obelisk the Tormentor, we'll put him in here as the god representative. He'll probably be 100 or like 99 or something. Just to be like, it gets here because of iconic status, everyone knows it, and it is like somewhat playable, it's been there. Yeah, I guess Obelisk could just be an honorable mention. What do you guys think? Obelisk on the list or honorable? Give me a yee or honor. Honor, okay, honorable mention. Sphere Mode, we all know Sphere Mode. I feel like we're already going to have Lava Golem, we're already going to have Gamecill. Do we need Sphere Mode on here too? Yee or cut the Sphere Mode. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of cut. Okay, so Sphere Mode, you're out of here. Mystical Space Typhoon. It was the spell trap removal. Gotta take it. Nibiru. Might be too new to say, but I feel like Nibiru's going to have an impact going into the game. Okay, I'm going to put him as an honorable for now. We'll come back. Fiber Jar. Fiber Jar, one of the craziest cards ever printed. Completely resets the fucking game. Banned almost immediately. Probably never seen any play. Do we put it on there just for being nutty? Or is that another honor? I feel like that might be an honorable mention. The craziest card ever printed. It's close to it. Honorable mention? Okay, we're doing an honorable mention. Utopia. I feel like, okay, Utopia, not the best card, but it stacks into so many different things that have been good. We gotta keep Utopia. Stardust Dragon. I believe Stardust was like a staple of Synchros. I didn't play a lot in Synchro format. But Stardust Dragon was good when it came out. And it still sees some play, and it's like an ace monster. Skill Drain. Pretty much the most powerful floodgate known to man. Vanity's Emptiness. The second most powerful floodgate known to man. Imperial Order. The triumvirate of floodgates. We have all the floodgates. Dante. Traveler of the Burning Abyss. So, okay, Dante, well-known, survived the ban list, one of the best one of the best Ixie monsters, only good in Burning Abyss, though. Never a generic card, never something that saw a whole lot of play, it's just that Burning Abyss has been a really big thing. Gotta have Dante. Give me a yee or cut on Dante, should he be in the list. Okay, keep Dante. Scapegoat. Gotta have it. Probably top 10. Terraforming, easily. That grass looks greener. When it showed up, it changed from 40 card deck to 60 card deck. Completely changed the way people played and looked at the game. Banned in like a year. And it's pretty new, so it's not like one of these legacy cards that got banned within a year, but it's still like, oh man, maybe they could bring it back or something. Grass created 60 card decks. So give me a year. Is creating 60 card decks good enough to be in the top 100 cards? Grass is still a 2 in the OCG. Good point. Yeah, we'll keep it there. Okay. Cyberstein. Cyberstein had the first emergency ban list. Gotta put it in here. This is another one online with like Fiber Jar. Last Turn is one of the craziest, stupidest cards ever printed. It's one of like, what, a dozen cards that have a unique win condition? And also it's one of like 2 cards that specifically causes a tie. Honor for Last Turn, okay. Super Polymerization. I feel like we gotta have Super Polymerization. For honor! Yeah, Super Poly's gotta be there. Black Rose Dragon. Do we get the nukes? Boral Sword. I already had Boral Sword on here. Okay. So there's one we can easily get rid of because it's already there. Brilliant Fusion. We already discussed Brilliant Fusion has to be here. Brilliant Fusion is good. Lone Fire. Lone Fire changed the way priority worked in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because before it used to be you could activate ignition effects as soon as you did it. Foolish Burial. The titular, like, put things in the graveyard card? Yeah, we gotta keep that. BLS changed priority. I'm pretty sure Lone Fire had something to do with it. Lone Fire was also really good for the whole plant synchro deck. It's still pretty much a staple in anything that's plants. It makes plants playable. And plus, it has things that it can do now with Predaplants and searching that. So, like, Jinzo has to be on there. Effect Veiler, probably one of the first modern hand traps. Like, Ash is good. Ash is probably the best, most used hand trap. But Effect Veiler was there first, and it still has an impact on the game. I feel like it's different enough, and it's several years before Ash. It's sort of a proto-Ash. But I don't know, if you guys want to vote on it, you can vote. Yi or cut, Effect Veiler. There are still some times you would rather play Effect Veiler over than Permanence. Not many, but there's some times. Karibo, I believe some people were already saying this should be an honorable mention. Karibo is the true first hand trap. It wasn't useful, no one really played it, but it was a hand trap, and Yugi used it. Reinforcements of the Army? One of the first search cards, one of the most generic search cards. You call things rotas, so we gotta keep that. So far we're at 10 cuts, and we gotta get another like 50 off, yeah I know. Mystic Mine. Mystic Mine I feel like we can cut. I don't like Mystic Mine. It had an impact on the game, but I think everyone kinda hates it. Marshmallow, one of the first monsters that couldn't be destroyed by battle. It was actually on the ban list, if you don't know. Like, Marshmallow was so good and there were so few ways to get rid of one. Spirit Reaper was better. You make a good point. But Spirit Reaper you could target with stuff and get rid of it. Marshmallow you had to have something specific. But yeah, we'll just cut Marshmallow. Ring of Destruction. Someone told me this, a lot of people liked it. It's apparently an iconic card, it caused ties. It had to be errata, but I feel like there's a lot of traps that were like on the same level and probably better. Solemn Judgment. It's the counter trap. Sangan. You gotta have my boy Sangan on here. Big influential card. On the limited list for years despite Witch of the Black Forest being completely gone. And I think Sangan kind of stands in also for things like Last Will, Witch of the Black Forest, all the old generic recruiter cards. Sangan's probably the best of those, so Sangan stands in for that. I feel like Dragon Ravine is kind of filling the same role that something like Foolish Burial is doing. Okay, Harpy's Feather Duster. So here's another. I feel like we need to have some of the nuke cards, but I feel like there's no reason to have Harpies and Heavy Storm. Harpies was first, It's more powerful. Heavy Storm was more played for longer. It was like limited for a while, and it was like a staple for a long time. Arguably, Heavy Storm might come back at some point, whereas Harpies, I think, won't without some sort of thing. So, should we give Harpies like an honorable mention? Should we roll it into like Heavy Storm, essentially? Okay, yeah, we're gonna put it on honor. Gem Knight Fusion. Gem Knight Fusion, I put on here originally because I was like, it's the first archetypal fusion card. It was actually kind of good. Gem Knights were kind of good. It set the bar for what, like, a non-polymerization fusion could be. But I'm already seeing people saying cut. So, yeah. Upstart Goblin. We're in. Shadow Mist and Dark Law. I feel like we only need one of these. I feel like these are both kind of the same. I feel like Dark Law is probably better. The other thing, like, Dark Law is not just a hero card. It's also, like, you get the mask change, and that sort of changed the way Fusion worked. And it's sometimes played in other things because of mask change, too. Soul Charge. We gotta have Soul Charge, right? Soul Charge was like, there was no reason not to play it as long as it was legal. Legendary Six Samurai Shien. He represents Six Samurais, but I feel like Gateway of the Six also represents. I feel like you can almost have both, because Shien also represents... He's the first monster I know of that, like, you make an extra deck monster and it just has a negate once per turn. Because before that, there's not really any fusions that are like once per turn negate something. Okay, so we're gonna keep Shien. Moon Mirror Shield. I feel like we can cut Moon Mirror Shield. It's arguably the best equip card. But yeah, it's never really seen any play or anything. It never really did much of anything. Twin Twisters. The next evolution in spell trap removal. But yeah, I can also see, like, we've already got MST. We've already got probably Heavy Storm and Harpies or whatever. Do we need Twin Twister to show the next evolution? Especially since Twin Twister kind of shares this with, like, Galaxy Cyclone and Cosmic Cyclone and Heavy Storm Duster. Dino Wrestler Pankratops. Kind of new, kind of fills the same thing that Cyber Dragon is, but also just like such a staple card, I can't imagine it being bad anytime soon. I'm saying, because we're saying it's a maybe, I'm gonna put it as I'm gonna do the plus. We're gonna do it as a, like, you know, maybe it'll be an honorable mention. If we have the room, we'll come back. If not, we'll cut it out. Future Fusion. Cut Future Fusion. Yeah, I'm trying to think of why I would want to keep Future Fusion. Yeah, like, it was good for Chaos Dragon format, and then it just sort of disappeared. Pre-preparations of rites. Possibly the best card for rituals ever printed. But it's never been used in anything meta. Yeah, rituals aren't all that great. It may have helped rituals, but it didn't... The one ritual deck that was good couldn't use it. So, Gladiator Beasts, big meta deck for a while. Always been a fan favorite. Geyserus is like the first good contact fusion. I think we've got to keep that. Okay, so we've got to pick one card to judge for True Draco. And this comes down again like Dragonic Diagram or Masterpiece. Dragonic Diagram is the card that stayed around. It helps out more. It's been put into more things. Masterpiece still gives people the nightmares. I honestly feel kind of like Masterpiece is just like a less powerful version of Clifford Towers in a lot of ways. Yeah, Towers is up here. Keep Diagram. Alright. Zodiac Ratpierre. Help define Zodiac format. One card Ixie summons. A card pretty much printed to be limited. Like, Dryden and Broad Bull are both very good, but you could make either one with Ratpierre, and Rat was the best Zodiac. The best main deck. Hyper Librarian, I don't know. I feel like that's a plus. That's like a maybe. What do you guys think? Maybe Hyper Librarian or nah? Yeah, I'm seeing there's a lot of mixed feelings on Hyper Librarian. It really kind of depends. So yeah, we'll put it at least honorable. The cornerstone of every Synchro Spam archetype. Crush Card Virus. One of the early super expensive cards, known from the anime, used to be super powerful, got errated into fucking hell and is now useless, but also spawned a bunch of viruses. It's also iconic, yeah, so it kind of works. Totally Awesome? Totally Awesome was kind of meta-defining. It was really easy to summon. It's been used in so many things because of Bahamut Shark. And also Paleozoics, and it still sees play in like Master Rule 4. Probably see even more play in Master Rule 5. Enemy Controller. Classic. I'm not sure how long it was good for. Cut Enemy Controller, alright. Honest, we've got to cut. They're honest-like effects. Gores. People still attack sometimes with their lower monster first because of Gores. Gores changed the way people played the game. I think you gotta keep Gores. I still play around Gores. Summon Skull or Mechanical Chaser, why not both? Yeah, Summon Skull was the first, like, one tribute drop with 2,500. Yeah, it's best of all time. Best of all time, and it's not just, like, whether or not it's the best, but also, like, did it have an impact? Is it iconic? Did it change the way we play the game or the way we talk about the game? All of that stuff factors in. I'm seeing slightly more yees. Okay, yeah, we'll keep it in there. Madolche Queen Tiramisu. Definitely a fan favorite. Definitely has non-targeting removal. I think it's a little too specific. I think we've got to cut it. Keep the waifu. Cut, cut, cut. Cut the cake. Cut the cake. Okay. No tiramisu. Victory Dragon. The only match winner that was ever legal in the game. Do we keep it in just for that? Oh, why thank you. I appreciate it, Gemini God. 2236. 2236. Oh, 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 oh. I scoop before the attack. Cut. Okay, I'm gonna give this an honorable mention. Relinquished. Do we need Relinquished and Restrict? I mean, one stands in for all the old, the ritual monsters. But yeah, I guess Relinquished doesn't see any play past the, like, first couple years of the game, does it? Yeah, well, we got Restrict. Just cut Relinquished. Pot of Neg 9. I feel like it's Pot of Greed too. We've got to keep it. Pot of Extravagance, on the other hand, might be a little too new. Do we keep Desires and cut Extravagance? On the other hand, Pot of Extravagance opens up for the non-extra deck, so it actually has an impact on deck choice. Desire is better. Cut the Extravagance. Okay. We get a plus. Maneater Bug, best flip monster. Flip out of 10. I feel like we can cut Metamorphosis, because we've already got the Goat Control, and unlike a lot of the other Goat Control cards, this hasn't done anything anywhere else. Most people don't even know what Metamorphosis does off the top of their head. Breaker the Magical Warrior. It was staple spell trap removal for a long time. Yeah, you did play him because MST was limited. So you can kind of roll him into MST. Like, the only reason he was good was because MST was so good and it wasn't there. Okay, I'm gonna put him on a maybe. I'm seeing a lot of good arguments for it. Magic Cylinder. Yee or cut. I don't have to explain Magic Cylinder. Okay, we're gonna cut Magic Cylinder. There we go. Treeborn Frog. I mean, it was the thing of Frog Narcs. But yeah, I guess that's it. We already have Toad. Yeah, he's the frog. Some people were arguing that Solemn Strike is different enough from Solemn Judgment that it deserves a different thing because it was never limited. It's still kind of good. I feel like we've already got Solemn Judgment, so we don't need Solemn Strike or Solemn Warning, really. We're cutting Strike. Castell. Best of the rank 4 toolbox. I feel like we've got to put one of those in there. Keep Castell. And Castell's better than 101. They're both kind of the same. Castell still kind of gets played. Perform a Pow Monkey Board. One of the best pendulums. The prototypical, like, pendulum that searches the other scale. Good for an emergency ban list. Yeah, we'll keep that in there. 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58. Okay, we're at 58. So we've still got a ways to go. This was a difficult... This might have been a bad choice. Okay. Trickstar Reincarnation. Yee or no? They still give people... Well, okay, we'll put it in a plus then. It definitely had an impact on the meta. It's definitely, like, good in the meta for one reason and good in rogue decks for an entirely different reason. Like, Trickstar Mill is a thing, and also you can get rid of the stuff in people's hands. Self-destruct button. It literally made to cause ties. It's definitely one of the most powerful cards as far as causing ties goes. Yeah, cut. Let's see. Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. Strongest main deck monster? Is this for their time or current? It's a little bit of both. If they were really super good in the previous format and then sucked, then they can still make the list because they were super great. Something like Dark Arm Dragon that didn't really see play beyond its format but was super defining in its format is really good. Or like Yatagarasu. Yatagarasu, hey, thanks Gemini. It's like Yatagarasu played for its format, super good, helped cause the first ban list, never seen from again. Never coming off the ban list. So yeah, keep it. There's a legacy to Yatagarasu. Independent Nightingale. Someone said we have to put this in here because more cards have been banned for their ability to copy this than any other card. It's been indirectly responsible. I don't think that really makes sense, though. I think we've got to cut it because it itself hasn't done anything. It hasn't made any plays. It's just been used with other stuff to make plays. Yeah, I don't know. Ultimate Falcon is weird because I feel like it is basically towers, but in a lot of ways it's kind of like better than towers. It's easier to summon than towers. But by the time it came out, we had kaijus and stuff. So it wasn't that difficult. Keep towers if we're fighting over Falcon. Yeah, I'll put that, it'll be an honorable mention, maybe. Skull Servant. Skull Servant as the iconic normal monster that launched a whole archetype around it. I feel like we've already got that in Dark Magician, though. And Blue Eyes. Yeah, we've already got, yeah. In fact, fuck Skull Servant. You're out of there. I like Skull Servant's the deck, but you can't do it. Necro Valley. The Floodgate card. The first Floodgate, the original, and also the deck that is still around. And also the fact that it's like the only card that ever got an errata that made it more powerful. Yeah. They just errated it, and they're like, we're gonna make it even more powerful. We're gonna allow it to do more stuff. Formula Synchron. The first Synchro tuner, and the precursor to we're going to Synchro during the opponent's turn. Give me a yee or cut on Formula Synchron. Ooh, this is a divisive one. Honorable mention with Librarian, possibly. Swap Frog, we've already got frog stuff on there, we don't need another frog. Ancient Gear Golem. The first Armades-like effect. One of the big things out of GX. Still one of the Ancient Gear's biggest thing. But the fact that we call it an Armades effect maybe changes the fact that it's not as important as we thought it was. No Golem needed, okay. Gateway of the Six, we gotta have it. Change of Heart or Mind Control. I guess we've gotta have one or the other, but we can't have both. We've either gotta say Change of Heart is more powerful, so even if it's banned, keep that in, or we've gotta say Mind Control is more used, so even though it's not as powerful. Seeing mind, okay. Crystron Halcafebrax. I may be a little biased, but I think I'd like to see a Crystron card on the top 100. I mean, I don't know. Hard to say. Hard to leg. It is one of the best Link monsters, or it's supposed to be. Who knows if it'll actually be good? It'll have to be kind of high on the list, because it's hard to say exactly. Did we get rid of Mass Driver? We got rid of Mass Driver. So we're doing Cannon Soldier instead of Mass Driver. Cannon Soldier is the burn card. Painful choice. Lavavel Chain. I feel like we already have Foolish Burial. And I think I have Armageddon Knight, and Armageddon Knight is probably better on there. Do we need the extra deck Armageddon Knight also? Alright, we'll keep it. Magispectre Unicorn Kieran. I feel like there's not enough Pendulum monsters on here. I feel like this is one of the most powerful Pendulum monsters ever printed. It also takes complete advantage of the fact that it's a pendulum because you could summon it out over and over again. It's another card that's banned and will probably never come back. Power Bond, really powerful, only used in like 2 decks. I think we could take that off. Let's count again and see where we're at real quick. So give me 1 second, we're gonna delete these. Oop. 67, okay. We're a little more than halfway there. We're gonna have to try to do this a little faster. Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon. Contact fuse with your opponent's monsters. Gets rid of things. Yay or nay? Keep also honorable with fleet. Yeah, I guess they'll both be honorable. 5-headed dragon. It has the most attack, guys. 5,000. No printed card has ever beat 5,000. It's so strong with Dragon's Mirror. And also, it's like the boss of like every Yu-Gi-Oh series. We'll put it, okay. Yubel. Did Yubel do anything in the actual game, or was it only ever played in Duel Links? I don't think I want to count Duel Links. Yubel is U-Bout. Ha ha! ABC Buster Dragon. Fuse from the contact fuse from the graveyard. Somewhat meta. Union monsters need a representative. Keep it. Alright. Okay. Spirits need a representative. Tsukiyomi was like the first good spirit monster. If you're not familiar, when it's summoned, flip a monster face down. It was banned because you could reuse a whole bunch of things like morphing jars and like man-eater bugs and penguin soldiers and just keep summoning it every turn. It eventually came out. The alternative is a Mono Iwado that was good as soon as it came out and has been good in a lot of stuff and is also the big-ass rock. So what are we going for? The new goodness or the old standby? Vote now on your phones. Tsukiyomi or Imano Iwato? Okay. Put a Mono Iwado. It's still really powerful. Okay. So, we need a Toon card. I think the feeling is Toon World, not good. Was never good. But do we put Toon Table of Contents in here? Because it was used in other stuff. It's technically a Toon card. It can search itself. And I think I've already answered my question. Mind Control, we already examined. The anti-hand trap grenade. It's new, but you know this is going to be good for a while. I feel like we've got to do this one. Magical Citadel of Endymion. Not even Endymions play it. It's a one of. How did I miss that? So we're cutting that. We don't need a spell counter representative. We do have a field nuke, though. And it's between Raigeki and Dark Hole. Raigeki is better. Dark Hole has been useful for longer. Vote now on your phones. Which is the better representative for field nukes? Okay, I think we have to put both on here. Because they're both good for different ways. Raigeki's iconic. It's the best field wipe for your opponent. It's just good. In a way that, like, Monster Reborn is good. Dark Hole has more utility. It's been played more. Anti-Raigeki versus White Hole. You shut your mouth. Heavy Storm or Heavy Trunade? Yeah, Trunade kind of, like, made Konami realize that returning to the hand is better. Okay, we're gonna put this at a plus. I'm gonna put Heavy Trunade there. Infinite Impermanence. It's like the best negation. I don't know, I kind of feel like it still has to be kind of high on the list. Just because, you know, before Infinite Impermanence, there was Fiendish Chain. And before Fiendish, and after Fiendish Chain, there was Breakthrough Skill. And after that, there was Phantom Knight's Fog Blade. And then there was Lost Wind. I'm sure something else will replace Infinite Impermanence as the trap that negates monster effects. We don't know how its staying power is. It's still one of the best right now, though. Okay, Royal Decree. Stops all traps. Just shuts down all traps. Worried about traps? Play Royal Decree. That's for a while. There are a lot of decks. Like, their only trap, Royal Decree, to stop all the other traps. Nay on Royal Decree, because we already have Jinzo. Breakthrough Skill? I mean, it had 2 uses, but I feel like I just listed off the list of all those traps that are, like, in the same tier as Breakthrough Skill and didn't quite work as well. It was good for its time, but it's not top 100 of all time good. Foolish Burial Goods. It's Foolish Burial, but for spell traps. It has potential to be really good. It certainly has its uses. Only like 3 decks can run. Nay on the goods. Alright, lots of nays coming down here. Okay. Someone said... So, I put Artifact Scythe because I feel like that's the best artifact. I think we have to include one of the back row cards that pops out. Someone said replace it with Sanctum. Do you guys think Sanctum or Scythe? Sanctum obviously searches Scythe. Would Sanctum be good if Scythe was banned? Scythe stops all extra deck monsters, which is gonna be good for a while. Okay, actually, they make a good point. Artifact Scythe is good, and it will remain good, but no one's gonna actually trigger it the way it was meant to be triggered. It's going to be summoned by Artifact Sanctum. And yeah, you got like Lancium or Lancia becoming good, and then Sanctum is going to work with that. So I feel like Sanctum is the better card to put on here if you're going to represent anything with artifacts. Bottomless Trap Hole. It was the most powerful trap hole for a while. It was at 1 for a very long time. Now it does nothing, but it used to be good. It's got a slightly lewd sounding name. Give me a yay or a nay on Bottomless Trap Hole. Yeah, we'll do honorable. Pot of Duality. It was super good before, like, you needed to special summon to win. Some decks, like Altergeist, can still play it. It will be a maybe. Cowboy for game exists. I'm putting Cowboy in that. Cowboy in the time rules and everything, especially with with Master Rule 420, we're gonna be good. Link Karibo. I think Link Karibo has to be one of the best Link monsters. I remember when this was announced, there was a whole bunch of people like, this opened so many combos, being able to put a level 1 into the graveyard. Necroface. The card that is not good, but can never be put to 3, because if it is, then mill decks become a thing. Because then if you like, hit Necroface, your chance of hitting another Necroface on a Necroface just goes nutty. Honorable? Honorable? Okay, honorable. Beals of the Diabolic Dragons, just because of how powerful it is. Beals is the reason why Castell is so good. It's such a, like, game changer card. This was like the precursor to Towers. This was the Towers before Towers, where it's like, I can't destroy you by any means, what do I do? And then 101 Silent Honor Arc came down, and it was just Castell in disguise. So, Psyframe Lord Omega. Does loops, very powerful. It's to Psyframes what Trishula is to Ice Barriers. Omega is the level 8 synchro these days, yeah. Lair of Darkness. You tribute your opponent's monsters. Kaiju's better for that. You make a forceful argument, Nixie. Lair was an unfortunate flop. It's either unplayable or unfair. It can't be both. Alright. Lair, you're out. Lava Golem, the original Kaiju. Great for burn decks. I'm putting it in there. Quasar Dragon. Quasar has to be included. Was there ever like a meta version of Quasar? It is like the biggest, bossiest monster that you can make. It requires like an entire deck just to make this one thing. Blazer is just a train of Quasar, though. Quasar was the card that actually did anything. By the time Blazar came out, Quasar wasn't even good anymore. Okay, fine, we'll put it in there. I wanted a Danger. I feel like Dangers really changed things around. I feel like they enabled a whole bunch of hand shenanigans, and graveyard setup, and drawing cards. What's the best Danger? The one that gives you the effect whether you discard it or not. I could just as easily put Bigfoot on here, because it was one of the first. I could put Nessie, but I think people like Danger Snake. Keep the Danger Snake, keep the Danger Snake. Armageddon Knight. It's a foolish burial on legs. That's a very good thing to do. It became limited recently because of how good it was. But then again, there's a whole bunch of other cards that do this that aren't. But then again, Armageddon Knight was like the first. Like, Armageddon Knight was before Scrap Recycler. It was before Mathematician. It was before all these other things. Like, this was the prototypical, you summon and you get a foolish effect. And I think Armageddon Knight was before Greffer, too. If I'm not mistaken. Ye and ye. We need a Baki. A Baki was never good or anything. Grapha, Dragon Lord of Dark World. Dark Worlds were good, like, over several formats. Grapha's the strongest one. It's like an inherent summon from the graveyard. Grapha yay, Grapha ye. The first good structure deck boss. Naturia Beast. It's definitely one of the best cards ever printed. Just like the cost that isn't a cost. Unless your opponent is going to activate 30 cards and make you deck out. Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Arguably one of the better synchros, also kind of difficult to make. But also if you have something that cheats monsters out of the extra deck, this is one of the go-tos. Alright, yay on Crystal Wing. Compulsory Evacuation Device. Is Painful Choice on there? Okay. We're getting rid of stuff all over the place, baby. It's working out. You should know what this does. Single targeting removal. Used to be useless, then became super good, now still arguably good. Summoner Monk. Summon any level 4 from the deck, and then you suddenly get into fucking rank 4 shenanigans, and it's like, oh, we made a bad decision with this. Royal Magical Library. Draw all the cards. Spell counters forever. Not good in anything but Exodia. Cut, cut, cut. Oh, the Exodia Searcher? Thunder King Ryo, the original Colossus. Not very good anymore because of Colossus, but it's still the original Colossus. Also, it's one of the, like, a normal summonable monster that negates summons with 1900 attack. I feel like we gotta put it on there. Inspector Border. We already have a Mono Iwado, but Inspector Border is, like, better. Cut, cut, cut. Do-do-do, cut, cut, cut. I don't know. Another one bites the dust. Psh. Cyber Dragon Infinity. Extra deck negation. The reason Ptolemaeus was banned. It showed that you could make a Ixie better by allowing you to stack one on top of it for free. I feel like we've got to keep it. It made a big difference. It's one of the best Ixie cards. It also absorbs things with this motion. You do a little absorb. Just a little... Icarus Attack. One of the first, like, 2-for-1 cards. Anything after the fact is called, like, an Icarus Attack. But there's not a lot of those cards. Alright, Icarus Attack is gone. The Destiny Hero Representative, Malicious. Constantly going on and off the ban list. Keep on Mally. Alright. Keeping the Mally on. Machina Fortress. Discard itself as cost to summon itself. You could ram it into things. It's one of Cardsworth's favorite cards. So we just need to decide 2 more out of these. I believe someone said Chaos Dragon Envoy of the End was the reason the ban list was created in the first place. So I think we need to put that on there. Cut Manju. Cut 1-for-1. We've already got Kaijus for Stormforth. Cut Fogblade, it's just more negation. Now we have less than 100, do we? I'm a little confused. 121 minus... okay. So that means, okay, Summon Sorceress can go in as one of the best Link monsters. Mobilize Engage is like one of the best archetypal draw powers in the game. 1-for-1 come back. I think 1-for-1's fine. We'll just turn one of these maybes into a yesy. Like Heavy Storm. Well, what was it? We had Heavy Storm and Harpy's Feather Duster. One of those should go on the list. Alright. I feel like Nibiru... we have a lot of cards on here that are almost as new as Nibiru. I feel like Nibiru's gonna be a big playmaker, especially coming up with Master Rule 420. I think Nibiru... I'm gonna put that on there as, like, my pick for this is going to be big in the future. And yeah, I think same with Pankratops. We don't have a whole lot of new cards on there. Master Rule 3.5. No, it's Master Rule 420. Because it comes out April of 2020. Feather Duster's limited in the OCG. There we go. So there we go. We've got our 100... we've got 100 cards with 21 honorable mentions. Kind of nutty. It only took us 2 hours. So now to actually rank them. So, if you're just joining us, if you're new here, we are trying to rank the top 100 Yu-Gi-Oh cards of all time. This is not the order. This is just a list so that we could count and make sure we had exactly 100 cards. Now we are going to order them from 1 to 100 to find out the best. What we're rating them on is overall goodness. How powerful they were when they came out, how powerful they are now, how many decks they were used in, what kind of impact they had on the game, both like in the meta and as also in the minds of people who played, and then also sort of like how iconic the card is. Like, has it had memes made about it? Do people know what that card is, even if they haven't played or don't play? All those things factor in. And because I'm going to cut this up and upload it to YouTube, we're going to start with 100 and work our way back, because starting with 1 would be really boring. Let's see, we've got to look at cards. Cards that are, like, barely good, that, like, barely made it into that. Yeah, like Mechanical Chaser. Yeah, I think Mechanical Chaser would be a great example of something that we're going to put at 100. So, Mechanical Chaser. Really good in the early game. Like, defined the format of Caveman Yu-Gi-Oh! For a while was the unit by which you measured how powerful a card was as far as attack values. 1850 could beat over anything else in the game. And this was like a $50 card, an $80 card or something. But it didn't hold up. It's not really all that iconic. It's only known to early players of the game for what it is, which was just the Mechanical Chaser beatdown was tier 0 in like the first year of the game, so Mechanical Chaser goes there. Summon Skull, yeah, probably the same thing. I think most of the normal monsters kind of have to go there. So Summon Skull was sort of the same thing, except for... Oh, whoops. That's the wrong one! Because again, Summon Skull for the longest time was... You contribute one monster and get 2,500 attack. That's more than like Jinzo, that's more than all the original Monarchs. This was the measuring stick for how high of attack you could get. And even after like Mechanical Chaser was used, you could still use Summon Skull fairly decently. And because it's used in Red Eyes and stuff, you can still kind of use Summon Skull. And they even have that new support and stuff for it. But again, it's something that's not really used anymore. I don't know, I kind of feel like Dark Magician and Blue Eyes should be higher, but at the same time, like, they're normal monsters. Like, they might facilitate a bunch of stuff, but they're still just normal monsters. They by themselves are not good, which is why I think they have to be, like, sort of cut out. Like, Dark Magician, iconic? Yes, super iconic. Probably one of the most iconic monsters. And Dark Magicians is set up to be a really good deck next year, but Dark Magician himself is just representative of that deck. And for a long time, it was a novelty. Dark Magician didn't do anything. So I'm going to put Dark Magician there, and then we're going to put Blue Eyes right ahead of it. Blue Eyes is slightly better because it has higher attack, and it's more iconic. And it actually won a World's Championship already, so, you know, that counts for that. Polymerization, that one was contentious. Yeah, I think a lot of the older ones, the cards that, like, you know really well, I think we have to admit that, like, just because you know them, that should weigh a little bit less than are they good. Like, being good is better than being popular. Being popular does still count for something, but something like Polymerization is one of the top 100 cards because it facilitated the entire fusion archetype. For a while, you had to play this card if you wanted to fuse. Nowadays, hardly ever played, but it's one of those things, like, even if you're a non-Yu-Gi-Oh player, you know, like, now I fuse my cards with polymerization! Heroes use polymerization, that is true. Heroes do still use polymerization, and Fluffles too. Polymerization still sees play, that's a good point. Let's not put that there yet. I think Jinzo. Jinzo is a much better option for this. Used to be good, used to be a staple, still shuts down traps, so it's slightly better, it has an effect unlike these first 4. So we're gonna put Jinzo here. Maneater Bug, about on the same level as Jinzo, but it doesn't require a tribute. But this also stands in for, like, Snow Maneater, it stands in for Penguin Soldier. This was just the first, like, good flip monster. None of the flip monsters are good now, so we're judging it by how iconic it was, and Maneater Bug is, like, the most well-known flip monster. Best flip monster that wasn't a jar. Did we not put Did I not put Morphing Jar on here? I forgot Morphing Jar. Well, another honorable mention goes to Morphing Jar, because we forgot that when we were making our list. We do have Fiber Jar. Fiber Jar is also an honorable mention. But Fiber Jar is an honorable mention because it's one of the goofiest fucking cards ever created. Morphing Jar was actually really good. Okay, so while we're doing the cards that used to be good, not so much good anymore, things that had a big impact, and if we're gonna do that, so Yatagarasu, Chaos Dragon, Envoy of the End, and Cyberstein. Those three cards, like Chaos Emperor Dragon and Yatagarasu, are good for the very first ban list was basically because of them. And Cyberstein was the first, like, emergency ban list to stop it. Cyberstein also started the trend of cheating things out of the extra deck. So I think Cyberstein is slightly better than those other ones. Chaos Emperor Dragon because of the errata. Okay, that makes sense. So we're going to put Yatagarasu next. Yatagarasu goes here. It can attack your opponent and just, like, they skip their draw phase, so you just keep attacking them for game. It keeps going, but because it's not playable anymore, and Chaos Emperor Dragon is, we're going to put Emperor Dragon slightly better than Yatagarasu. And then we're going to put Cyberstein, as if I can find it. No one plays Pot of Greed anymore. That should have been 100. Yeah, but Pot of Greed, I feel like even though no one plays Pot of Greed, it's such an iconic card, and it's so good, like, if it were let off the ban list, everyone would play it at 3. There'd be no reason not to play Pot of Greed. The same can't be said for something like Chaos Emperor Dragon or Yatagarasu. Like, a winning deck would work with Yatagarasu, but you wouldn't instantly play it in every single deck. So yeah, that's a good example. Stuff that's no longer good now, even if it came off the list. So like Crush Card Virus. More iconic than Cyberstein. The original version, more useful than Cyberstein. Still can be played, but it's still the fact that, like, it was played more, it was good, it was just very, very expensive. Classic Kaiba card. Yeah, so we're gonna put Cannon Soldier here, not a banned card. Never been banned, but it's caused a bunch of stuff to get banned. Still can be used for, like, OTKs, essentially. And then, yeah, that's another good... Sangan in this could be, obviously, kind of switched around. It's kind of... I actually did this list because almost as a dare from the duel logs. And that's kind of one of the things about it, is like, what's really the difference between the 89th best card and the 90th best card? They're very close. When you go to a top 100, it's kind of crazy. And yeah, I should mention, Cannon Soldier stands in for Toon Cannon Soldier, for Mass Driver, for any non-once-per-turn burn card. Those all fall into this category, but Cannon Soldier's the most well-known, it survived the longest. Same thing with Sangan. Sangan stands in for Last Will, it stands in for Witch of the Black Forest. But Sangan was the most used, it's still used sometimes, like some Altergeist players like it. Yeah, Gores, I kind of feel like Gores should be a little bit higher. Let me see if there's anything else. Quasar, maybe? Gores changed the way we played. Quasar is like the better monster, but it was really difficult to make. So it's like oddly specific. So we're going to come in at 88. We're going to do Shooting Quasar Dragon. Really powerful monster. Really good for synchros. Like the epitome of boss monsters, but it's been replaced by Blazar, which could just as easily go in this spot, except for it doesn't have the legacy that Quasar does. Really difficult to make. You have to make decks around it. And even then, they never saw a whole lot of competitiveness. But it is a really good card. If you were just going on, like, the most powerful cards in the game, Quasar would have to be up there. And I think kind of with that, Beals, maybe? Because Beals didn't change the way we played the game, either. Beals is another card that, like, at its time, one of the best boss monsters. Really easy to make, a lot of things could make it. Kind of changed up where suddenly destruction was, like, literally useless. But yeah, Beals of the Diabolic Dragons, again, just a very powerful, very threatening boss monster, right up until you got, like, 101 and Castell that had targeting non-destruction removal. And then that became the big hotness. Honest? Yeah, Honest doesn't see any play. I feel like Honest is a little more important, though. In the same way that Gores is. Black Rose Dragon? We're putting all the synchros right next to each other, but a lot of these... This is just the synchro corridor. Again, Black Rose Dragon. Slightly easier to make than Beals. A very good card, but it didn't change the way you played. This has to go below something like Gores, something like MST, something like Honest, that, like, you can call something an MST. If something raises attack, you'd be like, oh, this is Honest for Black Wings. You're never going to see a field nuke and be like, oh, this is Black Rose Dragon for something. Black Rose is still a good card, still a field nuke, still one of the best toolboxes, but it doesn't really see play anymore. And it probably won't again unless, like, Destruction suddenly becomes really good. So yeah, probably while we're doing synchros that no one plays anymore, Stardust Dragon, probably the best level 8 synchro for a long time. Stardust, also very iconic card, more iconic than the rest of these. But again, also easier to make, used in more things, used for longer. You know, just to break up the synchro shokens, just for a little bit, I'm gonna say Summoner Monk. Pretty sure Summoner Monk's at 3, not good anymore, really, but could be useful, one of the, like, staples of the rank 4 generation. This is maybe the tune table. You could use this in Sky Strikers, no one does, but you could. Well, no, you never played the actual tune cards in it. You just played Tune Table of Contents because you could get 3 spells in the graveyard immediately. Because it's a non-once per turn, you just search another Tune Table of Contents, search another one, search like something else, and then bum bum boom, you're there. Gladiator Beast Gyzaris. This might actually be a little bit too high on the list. Although, I don't know, we'll see. With Master Rule 420 coming out, the new thing, we're not doing Poly yet because Poly is still seen play in decks. I think we have to rate that a little higher just because some decks do still use it, particularly Heroes, which might be really good in the future. And same thing, Gladiator Beasts might be really good in the future. There's a lot of things that can cheat this out of the deck, but it is still an old contact fusion that's specific to an archetype that's at 3 and not really seeing much play or anything, so we're going to put that at 82. I think we have to, as much as I like Gores is like one of my favorite cards. Again, it changed the way you played the game. You attacked with your lower monsters first. But it's at 3, it's not seeing much play. It's also in there with something like Tragodia. It's kind of standing for things. How did I forget? Okay, we've got another honorable mention because I'm an idiot once again. Mirror Force? Is Spellbook of Judgment on here? No. Spellbook of Judgment was good, but it was like, it's only good for one format. It's only good in spellbooks. It didn't change anything about the game. It didn't have a huge impact. It was just a broken draw power card in an archetype about drawing cards. Oh, Exodia. Are we at least in the... Okay, yeah, that seems like a good way to count out the 80s. Number 80, Exodia, the Forbidden One. Super iconic, win condition, does a whole bunch of stuff, has a whole lot of support, was meta for a time, not played anymore. Can't really do anything. Even when it was, like, meta, it was always like one of those rogue things, and no one really liked it. Is Spellbook of Judgment on there? No. I don't think Spellbook of Judgment belongs on here. I mean, I can make it an honorable mention. And Spellbook of Judgment did not make Spellbooks tier 0, because it was Spellbooks versus Dragon Rulers. Legendary 6 Samurai Shien. Another card at 3, not really played, but you gotta put it here, both because it stands for like 6 Samurais in a way, which was a really powerful deck, has a lot of power in it, but also this was really the first like boss monster that had like a once per turn negate. Nowadays a lot of cards can do this, but this was like the first powerful one where you made a whole deck about it. I still want to get, there's still cards here that like don't see play. Thunder King Ryo. Thunder King Ryo is an excellent example. You know, it's the original Thunder Dragon Colossus. Stops you from doing stuff. It can also negate summons. 1900 booty. Great in stun cards. Was at 1 for a long time. Not played anymore, but that's because we literally got a retrain in it in another Thunder monster that's not like a one-sided Thunder King Ryo. Grapha, yeah, I think, okay, now we're getting into stuff that, like, Grapha, for the most part, his time is over. He's still good, especially with, like, something like Skill Drain. Still a great boss monster. You discard it, destroy something, inherent summon out of the graveyard. Yeah, and then with that, Gaga Cowboy. I kind of want to put it higher. Cowboy for game, so good. But at the same time, you're not going to see Cowboy for game very often. Not unless rank 4 decks see, like, a resurgence. Raigeki doesn't see much play, but it's got to be a little higher. Or no one's played Cowboy in a few years. Raigeki was seeing some play, like, last year. Yeah, Dark Hole, and plus these both have a history to them. I think, yeah, we gotta put Trishula on here at this point. Trishula at 75, you're 4th of the way down the list. It's still a Synchro Dragon, it takes some effort to summon. It's been at 3 for a while. Hard to say if it's gonna be great, but we're gonna give it a time. It at least got 25% up down the way. And then right after that, Dark Arm Dragon. Because Dark Armed had its own format. There was the tier 0 Dark Armed Dragon format. Still at 2. It's at 3 in the OCG. If it comes back to 3, I doubt it'll see much play. Especially now that you've got the other Chaos Dragon or whatever. But still pretty good. And then, yeah, while we're doing these, like, format-defining cards that aren't good anymore, Cleafort Towers. Like, Towers means invincible in Yu-Gi-Oh! And this, we almost could have put Masterpiece here. But I feel like Masterpiece and Towers are the same thing. This was first, this is the bigger one, this is the one off the list. And plus, I mean, if anything, like, Clifforts were designed around this. Whereas, even without Masterpiece, you have Dracos still doing stuff. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to put Dante here. Because Dante's a good card. Don't get me wrong. And Burning Abyss is like one of the most resilient decks ever. But it's not really great. In fact, it might even deserve to be a little bit lower, because Dante can't out like Cliffort Towers or Trishula. So it's arguably weaker, but it has that floating playstyle. It's representative of a time in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where destruction didn't matter, because you could just float through everything. And he might come back with the new Master Rule changes, the Master Rule 420, as I'm going to continue to call it. You can't stop me. And then I think immediately above him, just because it's a hard counter to Dante, we're going to put Masked Hero Darklaw. Slightly less generic than Dante. It is kind of limited to heroes unless you use Mask Change too, but it's so good that people were using Mask Change too to turn things into Darklaw. Darklaw, it's just so many. It's like a Macrocosmos, which we don't even have on here. Which, let's just go down. Let's just keep adding to the honorable mentions. Macrocosmos, probably an honorable mention. Macrocosmos can go. We already have a whole bunch of floodgates on there that are probably better than Macrocosmos, more impactful. Plus, Darklaw is a Macrocosmos. It's a one-sided Macrocosmos that also stops you from searching things. It also kind of sees a turning point where fusions go from, like, you need polymerization to you get your custom polymerization to you need contact fusion to then this one card fusion, and then eventually to ABC Buster Dragon, where you can contact fuse from the graveyard. Speaking of which, I think this is a good place to put ABC Buster Dragon. ABC Buster Dragon, probably better than Darklaw. It can beat over it, it can banish it. Very good. Fusion from the graveyard. But it's not seeing play right now. And then I think sort of along those lines, we're going to get Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. Again, once we start getting into the boss monsters, it's easy to compare and just be like, Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, easier to summon than Buster. You can play it in a bunch of dinosaur decks. Not that there's a lot, but like generic dinos, dino wrestlers, you have more options. And this also has like non-targeting removal, it can OTK, stuff like that. I'd say Ultimate Conductor is above BLS. You're not far off. Again, another card that, like, no one's really playing. Yeah, BLS is not better than Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, but it is super iconic. It's one of the most iconic boss monsters in the game. And it was for the longest time. And is that just about everything that, like, wouldn't see play or doesn't see play? Yeah, Lava Golem, still good, still might see some play. Probably outshined, or not probably, undoubtedly outshined by kaijus, but it's searchable. It still gets rid of 2 monsters for 1 monster. It has the burn damage. For the longest time, this was the only kaiju you had. That and like Volcanic Queen, which could go in here for that as well. It inspired the tribute removal. And then same thing with like Honest. Where is Honest? Yeah, Honest inspires a bunch of cards. There's literally an Honesty Neos. There's just like another Honest card, but for elemental heroes. And again, you call things Honest when they can increase the attack during the battle phase. Like, such an iconic card. Still arguably good. If we get a good light deck that can like almost OTK, or like a good fairy deck, this could see a resurgence. You never know. And then MST. 65, we get MST, and I believe that's the last of the cards that are like, just here because they're iconic, just here because of the impact they had. Again, MST can be useful in some instances. There are some decks that prefer this over like Twin Twisters. They're few and far between, but for the longest time, this was the spell trap removal. Has to get a pretty high spot in here. What about Cyber Dragon? Cyber Dragon is a rogue deck. It's still a somewhat meta deck, and they still play Cyber Dragon in it, and it changed the entire format. Cyber Dragon is probably a top 10, if I'm being honest. So from here, we're looking more at, I think what we want to do here is like, cards that are played, but they're more niche. I think probably the best example of that would be, Lone Fire Blossom. Still seeing some play, generators are using it. Anyone who wants to use the Brilliant Fusion package with the Predaplants, Lone Fire Blossom. Like, if you were playing plants, Lone Fire is a staple. And I think they're kind of limited to what they can do with plants because Lone Fire exists. Lone Fire is just like one of those super good cards. And the same thing with Unizombie. We're going to put Unizombie in here. Again, just amazing stellar card, does everything that zombies want to do, a 3 of staple in every zombie deck, but only good in zombie decks. But I think this is a good place to put Grass. Grass is along the same lines where, like, this is not locked to a specific archetype, but there are only certain decks that like that grass looks greener. Granted, those decks are, like, absolutely busted with Grass. It changes the way the game is played. You can play these 60-card decks and everything. But it was only out for a little short time. We only got it for like a year, maybe less than a year. So I'm going to have to put Grass here. Just sort of like, yeah, it could be really good if it got off the list in certain decks, but not for everyone. So then after that, Castell. Castell, still used, only in rank 4s. It's good non-destruction removal. It's kind of outdated, though. In fact, these ones could kind of be switched around. But at least their rank 4s are more generic than like zombies or plants or whatever. Diagram, yeah, Diagram kind of the same, but Diagram is played in like a meta deck. Or a deck that's skirting the edge of meta. It's gonna be around here, but there's a couple things I'd want to get first. Destiny Hero Malicious, another good example. And in fact, this one probably should have gone... We probably should have started with the more specific ones, because this is one... Well, I don't know. Destiny Hero Malicious, if you can Foolish Burial this, you don't even need to use it in like a hero deck, because you can just get stuff out on the field. It's not hero specific, but it's mostly used in heroes. It's just free material, it's free summons, constantly on and off the ban list at different amounts. Crystal Wing, you can summon out with, like Tzolk'in. You can summon out with, like, Guard Dragons when they were available. I feel like but it's a little harder to make than Musketeer, and it's not as, yeah. So here, you guys are right. We're gonna get Castell a little higher. Castell was a little bit more important. Crystal Wing was great and all, but it was only used in, like, much more specific decks. And it's also not, like, this revolutionary card. It's just another in a long line of negates. Nat Beast, I feel, has to go higher just based on its power. So then in between those, we're going to go ahead and put Performapal Monkey Board. Monkey Board sort of representing the whole Pepe deck, the Performapal deck in general. It also represents sort of just Pendulum's ability to, like, just get both your scales at once. It's also banned for a reason. But it's also only useful in Performapals, really. Yeah, we're still doing specific stuff. So, like, Dragonic Diagram. Or you know what? Yeah, okay. Dragonic Diagram's gonna go here. And I'm gonna put Zodiac Ratpierre. It's banned, but it's only good in Zodiacs. Why not replace Monkey Board with Astrograph? I don't know. What do you guys think? Should we replace Monkey Board with Astrograph? Maybe Astrograph is the best one. Or maybe even replace both of them with Electromite. I think Astrograph. Okay. So Monkey Board, you've become Astrograph Sorcerer. Which is a much better Pendulum monster and good for more Pendulum decks. Then Castel, because Castell's still around. Ratpierre, kind of banned. This whole thing is a mess because it's hard to compare, like, what was better, Ratpierre or Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon? It's like, well, for its deck at its time, at full power, it was better. But this is more generic power. This doesn't do anything on itself, but it summons cards that are banned. But this does other things. Rat's limited to 1, yeah. So you could kind of, a lot of these in the 50s, once you get past, like, once you get past Unizombie, a lot of these are kind of interchangeable up until we get to a certain point. And yeah, I've got to put this in. If we're going to do Dragonic Diagram, I can't put this much higher than Dragonic Diagram, because this is essentially used as, like, a true Draco card. It's used in other stuff. I have no doubt that maybe this will see it return again if we get a special summon only deck or something. And it's definitely, if it's representing the spirits, it's one of the most powerful spirit cards ever printed. Arguably better than Inspector Border just because it's easier to understand and it works against established fields too. Okay, so Necro Valley. Necro Valley, very iconic. One of the first, like, floodgates, has a deck based around it. One of the few cards to get an errata and make it better, but doesn't actually, like, shut down everything you want it to. It's not as strong of a floodgate as some of the other floodgates on here. Plus, while it's good, I can't say it's better than something like Naturia Beast. And I don't know, actually, I'm thinking Naturia Beast or Toad have to go next. Because, again, these are cards that, like, you can make in certain decks, they're very good, but they're not, like, generically available. Toad, easier to make, made in more decks, can be shot out of the extra deck by Bahamut Shark, was used in a bunch of different things. Naturia Beast, a little bit more difficult, a lot more powerful. Shuts down all spells, not just one negate. Yeah, if your opponent doesn't use spells, though, this isn't very powerful. That's a good point. But if they do use spells, your game's just over. That's the way to look at this. This, in the situations it's useful, shuts down the entire game. Toad, always going to be useful, just one negate. Toad probably going to be better in Master Rule 420. Good point. Based on what I think will happen in the future, we're going to put Naturia Beast at 53, and then Toad at 54. And I think this seems like a good place to put Polymerization. Because now, again, you're getting into cards. You're getting into cards at 51. Polymerization, got the history, useful in so many things. I don't know. What do you think? Polymerization or Brilliant Fusion? I think they're both around here. Brilliant is way better than Poly. All it does is give you that extra normal summon. But I guess it did change the way a lot of the decks were played. Useful in more decks, because not even non-fusion decks would use it. Poly has been relevant longer. It's also more iconic. Brilliant Fusion gives you Garnet. Yeah, I think Brilliant Fusion is a good thing to put at 50. I think that's where I'm going to do it. Okay, so it's between Stratos or Cyber Dragon Infinity. Cyber Dragon Infinity is one of the best Ixie monsters ever recorded. Elemental Hero Stratos is one of the biggest memes. He's also Heroes and Cyber Dragons are both kind of relevant. They're about the same amount of relevance, and that they're tier 2, and a new tech could, like, break them into the meta. Compulsory is on there. Yeah, but Compulsory is, like, a generically good trap card. I'm still doing stuff that, like, you know, only rank 5 decks with machines can play this. Only hero decks can play this. Yeah, so let's go with Stratos. Stratos made it into the top 50, just barely. But because he's only good in hero decks, Granted, he searches... Hero decks are like 4 archetypes at this point. Yeah. And he also serves as spell trap removal. And he gets his effect non-once per turn on both, like, normal or special summon. He searches himself, yeah. And he was banned, like, almost immediately. So we're gonna, but it's still just heroes. Any light deck, any level 5 deck. He was banned for 5 years. Ptolemaeus was banned to stop you from making Cyber Dragon Infinity. Because literally, if it was any more generic, it would be ban-worthy. Well, Bahamut Shark still requires waters. And I think Infinity is still a better card than Toad. I mean, they're close to each other on the list. But I think it's easier to make, like, level 5s than it is to make level 2s or level 4 waters specifically. Plus, there are ways to cheat this out in the same way that there are ways to cheat this out. The difference is, Bahamut Shark didn't get banned, Ptolemaeus did get banned. It's my list, that's what I'm gonna do. This is gonna be the hard choices when we're getting up like this. Okay, so then after that, Magispector Kieran. Specifically only really good in Pendulum decks, but like, any Pendulum deck that could make 6s could summon Kieran, and you just summon it back and forth. It's super hard to get rid of. You can't target it, it bounces itself. It's super annoying. You can't deal with it in like any way. And then I'm going to put Heavy Trunade, which again kind of requires certain cards to be good. If your opponent is just playing like regular spell traps, like, it still unlocks the area for you to attack and everything, but that's not as good. If it was, then Hey Trunade would have been good. There's a bunch of stuff that's still broken if you can send your cards back to your hand. So we'll put Heavy Trunade there. You know what? I'm gonna go with this. So we're gonna put Blaster, Dragon Ruler. This is gonna stand in for all the Dragon Rulers. Which again, all these cards, once you're getting into like the top 50, these are all like format-defining power cards, amazing cards, but the only thing that's keeping them out is stuff like, you know, Boral Sword can be made in any deck. Instant Fusion can be used in almost any deck to get you a whole variety of things. Blaster was really good in Dragon Rulers and some like fire decks. It was amazing in that deck, but because it's specific to that, we're putting it slightly lower. And then I think, yeah, just because it's so specific, Gateway of the Six. Absolutely busted. It taught Konami that they shouldn't that they needed to give things a hard once per turn. Instant Fusion into Thousand Eyes, then Link Summon into Link Karibo. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of, like, combos on here that maybe we should have thought out a little bit more. But Gateway of the Six at number 44. Oh, there's still so many left. We've got so long to go. This was a terrible idea. You'll have to comment in the comments if you made it this far. If you enjoyed this, the way I presented it, or if this was a terrible thing and I never should have done it. But yeah, Gateway of the Six, very strong, only for 6 samurais. We're putting it there. Link Karibo, refined a whole bunch of decks, changed away so many plays, but it's newer, only level 1s. There's a lot of level 1s and a lot of different archetypes, but Link Karibo still works. Then after that, I'm going to go with Reinforcements of the Army. Searches every level 4 lower army. It's fucking... It's like the spell card searcher that every archetype wish it has. It's one of those things, like, you knew this was going to get limited eventually. It couldn't have stayed at 3. There was no way. It's just too powerful. It searches too many cards. And even at 1, it's still played. And like, you play a warrior deck, play Reinforcements of the Army. But the warriors are still trumped by a card that I need to find, and it's Utopia. And again, I'm putting Utopia so high because you need Utopia to make Utopia the Lightning. You need Utopia to make Utopia double. Lightning was like format defining. There are a bunch of things that could only be outed by Utopia the Lightning. Arguably, Armades effects could be called Lightning effects, which is probably a better name for them. And then it came out again this year with Utopia double, allowing any rank 4 to OTK the opponent. And there's always a chance that we're going to get more stuff. There's more support coming out for Utopia, especially in Rule 420. So I gotta put Utopia here. Probably one of the best. It's also like, even when Ixies first came out, Utopia was like a played thing just because it was one of the first Ixies. So and it's a protagonist ace monster. It's got a lot going for it. Let's go with Danger first. Because Danger used in a bunch of stuff, used in a whole bunch of decks. Danger's changed a lot of the format and everything. And we're using Danger Tsukinoko to stand in for Danger. It's obviously one of the better Dangers because you automatically get the summon. But it's still like a specific thing that not every single deck can play. Pankratops, one of the newest cards on here. Will it stand the test of time? I don't know. It's hard to say with Pankratops, but it replaced Cyber Dragon as like the go second. You summon it. It can beat over almost anything. It has targeted removal. It's just great, and I don't see it getting bad anytime soon. And yeah, I think this seems like a good place to put Effect Veiler as well. Because this is another card not played in everything, but you could play it in just about everything. I feel like 39 should be 39. It's close. It's really close. I missed opportunity, perhaps. Psyframe Lord Omega is harder to make, yeah. Once you're getting down this far, these extra deck cards are harder and harder to justify, just because every extra deck card takes like 2 cards to make. Psyframe Lord Omega, probably the best level 8 synchro ever made. There's a reason it's at 1. It was useful even through Master Rule 4. The only reason it's this low is just because almost everything else that remains is like a card you just activate. Okay, Artifact Sanctum. Artifact Sanctum going in here. Still locked to artifacts, but it's helped by the fact that there's 3 artifacts that are really good. You could summon Scythe, Moraltac, or Lancia to do various different things. Armageddon Knight would see more play if it was at 3. Armageddon Knight's also, like, it itself is not great, but it's kind of standing in for all these other cards that are Foolish Burial on legs, that just, like, dump something into the graveyard because it's very good. Okay, so I think because this is the most difficult to summon and use out of the things we have, we're gonna go with Thousand Eyes Restrict. Like, iconic fusion monster. It can be made with a whole bunch of different things. Was good in GOAT format when you had like Metamorphosis and the Thousand Eyes Restrict. It's good with instant fusion, but you still need to play a way to make it. So we're gonna put it here. And then Hauka Febrax. We're gonna put Hauka Febrax here, simply because we don't know what kind of impact it's going to have. If we're gonna assume that it's gonna be like in the OCG, everyone's gonna be using making this as an instant Link 3. It's gonna facilitate a lot of synchro plays because it summons every tuner in the deck. One of the best Link monsters, but because it still requires tuners, because it's kind of specific, we're doing that. Compulse can't be this high. Compulse is just a generic card you activate. It's so good in so many situations. I can't think it's like you can chain it at any point. Like, I can't say that, like, Engage is necessarily better because Engage has to be played with Sky Striker cards. Like, and Sky Striker cards are really, really good. I guess Compulse, it doesn't do a whole lot. It just gets rid of 1 card. It's just monsters. And it does target, but it's both players. Okay, so fine. You know, we're going to put Compulse here. Maybe I'm weighing, like, the generic usefulness too high. Because the effect isn't all that great. It's just the fact that it can be used by anything. It's an instant out to anything that can be targeted, which is a lot of stuff. I think I kind of forgot it can be targeted. And then we'll put Sky Striker Mobilize. Better than Compulse. I'm gonna put Instant Fusion here. Instant Fusion, you've got to play cards in the extra deck, but almost any deck can put an Instant Fusion, and there's so many different targets for it. Super Polymerization. I kind of want to put it here, but at the same time, it's like, the fact that you can't respond to it just makes it so much more of a power card. Where something like, you know, Upstart Goblin is... Yeah, you know what? I'm going to put Upstart Goblin at 30. We're gonna start it right here. Because Upstart Goblin is like, you know, it's good. You could play it in just about any deck. If it was at 3, a lot of meta decks would play it, especially something like Sky Strikers. But it's not like a power card. It doesn't do a whole lot. It's just really good for consistency and such. But these are sort of like, okay, so now we're getting to the cards where, like for instance, Lava Chain. How many decks can put something in the graveyard or want to put something in the graveyard? Nearly all of them. But it's not really like a power move. Like, it can be used for some combos and it can make some big things, but it by itself, like in a vacuum, doesn't really like do a whole lot. And it's the same thing for like Called by the Grave. Like, Called by the Grave, very good for saving your ass from certain things. Very powerful card. Going to be very powerful, but it's not going to win you the game like by itself. It's not doing a whole lot of advantage. It's just getting rid of one thing. And yeah, you know, let's go ahead and put Summon Sorceress here. Because I kept thinking of it as like, you know, Summon Sorceress can summon like any card from the deck, but it does require a lot of setup. And it is banned. And it was only around for a little bit, so maybe it's probably too high now that I think about it. This is much harder than I considered. And then I think Mind Control. Stealing a monster, probably pretty good. Yeah, Change of Heart is way better than Mind Control, but Change of Heart was rarely ever played. Mind Control, kind of like the same way, like, we put Sangan on here earlier in favor of Last Will. Last Will is the better card, but it was banned, like, soon after it came out. Sangan is almost the same thing, but it was around for a lot longer, had a lot more impact on the cards and everything. Brain Control got an errata, and now it's not good. Mind Control's been good, like, as long as it's been in the game, it's been good. Let's go Nibiru. Nibiru is a power card. Nibiru requires specific stuff. Nibiru's also really new. It's another one of those, like, Nibiru might be better than something like Foolish Burial, as far as, like, it can have more impact on the game. But we don't know if, like, in 6 months, Nibiru might not see any play. And who knows, this could be one of the best cards of the next 10 years. It could not do anything, but it has the potential to. It has the potential to completely change the way we play. It could be a 3 of staple going forward. And it could force fast formats to be slow formats because of it. Like, because it has all that potential, we're putting it here, but there's still a chance that it doesn't do that. And then, yeah, then we're going to put Foolish Burial. Very good if you want to dump something into the deck. Almost every deck wants to do that. But there's also a lot of decks where, like, putting something in the graveyard doesn't further your plays. It's just something that you want to do along the way. And also there's a lot of archetypal Foolish Burials. But really early card, been around forever, still limited for a reason. I'm going to put Pot of Desires next. Another great consistency card. I think I'm going to put Terraforming. Going with the Search card, 21 Terraforming. Just barely didn't make it into the top 20. Searches everything, better than Rhoda, helps so many archetypes and everything, but at the end of the day, it's just a search card. Gamecill is a -1, so is Infinite Impermanence. And yeah, I think that's, again, it's one of those, like, Infinite Impermanence, it's a great trap card, possibly one of the best trap cards ever made, but at the end of the day, it is a -1, because it doesn't remove anything from the field. And, you know, that doesn't matter because it's so good, but when we're down to top 20, stuff like that has to be taken into account. I might have rated this way too high, but again, there just never seemed like a thing. The thing about Borrelsword is that it's probably the best Link monster, because it allows you to OTK on, like, almost any field, and it just takes any 4 monsters. So, Borrelsword is basically the card in the extra deck that allows any deck to OTK. Like, fucking Yosenjus can OTK with Borrelsword. Like, if you could put 4... There's like hardly any deck in the game these days that can't put 4 monsters on the board in some situations. There's almost no reason not to play it if you even have a chance of being able to make it. Morphtronics can Borrelsword. And the fact that it just ends games and attacks over so many things, so it's like an out to a whole bunch of stuff, because even unaffected monsters, like Ultimate Falcon, like Borrelsword can't lower their attack, but it can still gain the attack, I'm pretty sure. Borrelsword attacks over anything, and it can attack twice, and it can be made by any deck, pretty much. So that's why it has to go so frickin' high. Firewall Dragon made infinite loops, because it was a protagonist monster, so it's super iconic. It's super iconic for almost ruining the game. And I think that's why it has to go so high on the top 20. because it's really good, but it's really good in a way that's really degenerate. It can never come off the list unless it gets an errata. But it's still one of the best extra deck monsters ever made. It's even more generic than Boral Sword. It made things like Gumblar Dragon more possible. So we've got to give it at least in the top 20. So Vanity's Emptiness. We've got a whole bunch of floodgates in the top. Vanity's Emptiness, probably one of the most powerful floodgates in the modern game. It's one of the things that, like, when it came out, no one really cared about it, and then the more the game got powerful, the more people hated it, and now it's unstoppable. And you could look at something, there's that other one where you pay 800, but at least that had a cost. Vanity's Emptiness, like, it at the time, maybe it's because I played during the meta, but it was like, you go first, you set up your field, as soon as your opponent's turn starts, you activate Vanities, you win. Your opponent can't do anything unless they open with Twin Twisters, MST, you just win. Is Vanities worse than Skill Drain? Yeah, I think Vanities is worse than Skill Drain because it's newer. There are still some decks that can play around it. Whereas, like, it's really hard to play around Skill Drain. But if you build a deck around it, Skill Drain's older, Skill Drain has more history. It'll be there, but we're getting close to it. I think I have to Monster Reborn. I can't say anything bad about Monster Reborn, but it's at 1 and people don't play it. It's 0-1 card economy. It can get monsters from either player's graveyard. It's also super iconic. Fuck. This is so hard. It's harder to do the top 10 than it is doing everything else, but it's like I can't... Well, you know what? Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put Raigeki at 16. Yeah, Raigeki, super iconic. Monster Reborn, super iconic. Both really good. They're just free shit, no cost, old as fuck, but they're playable and no one plays them. And that's just like the downside of it. And I think, going with that, just barely above that, we're going to have to go with Dark Hole. And I'm putting Dark Hole above Raigeki because, one, it was playable for a lot longer time, so it's a lot more of an iconic Yu-Gi-Oh card. And also, Dark Hole honestly kind of has more synergy with how many cards that like to be destroyed. This is also like, right now, if you're going to play Dark Hole, you would play Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. But if Kaiju Slumber ever gets hit to, like, 1, I think there's some decks that would play 3 Dark Hole. Just because it just blows everything up. Like, fuck, I don't know, if Unchained ever get good, Dark Hole might be good. Okay, Harpy's Feather Duster. All these iconic cards are not making it into the top 10, because again, it's just been banned for so long. And even if it came back, would we play it? Probably, but I'm not sure every deck would play it. And there's always counters to it and stuff like that. There's also a chance it gets an errata, and who knows. Here's the thing about, like, Painful Choice and Graceful Charity. Neither of these can ever come back. Ever. Unless they get, like, a rethink. Painful Choice is, like, draw 3, discard 2. So it's Allure of Darkness for everything. Just anything. And Graceful Charity is reveal any 5 cards. Your opponent chooses one to go to your hand, and the rest go to the graveyard. So it's Foolish Burial for 4, or grab 1. Imagine this in, like, Zombies. Imagine this in so many decks. But they've been banned for forever. They've been banned in... So you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna Graceful Charity. There we go. It's better to choose the cards than to draw them. They're both like a +1, but that has to go there. Just because it's been banned for so long. It hasn't had an impact on the game that we would like. I'm going to put Imperial Order at 11, and I'm going to put Skill Drain at 10. Skill Drain is in the top 10. Skill Drain just barely beating out Imperial Order, stops all monster effects, stops all spells. The only reason Skill Drain getting a slight higher, it had some meta relevance, and it's been playable for longer. Like, Imperial Order went out for the longest time, it got an errata, it came back. People are still playing it at 1. There's plenty of meta decks that'll play an Imperial Order at 1 just to shut everything down. And Skill Drain, though, Skill Drain is just it's such an iconic floodgate. It's so powerful. It was used in Cliff Forts. I'm sure it was been used in other stuff, but my mind is full of fuck after 4.5 hours of this. And monster effects are way more important. They've probably always been way more important. Soul Charge, top 5. Soul Charge better than Super Poly. One breaks boards, one makes boards. Yeah, we're gonna go with Super Poly. Super Poly's been banned for a while. Super Poly, you do have to play fusion monsters, but you can't respond to it. You can't respond to it, and that makes it better than so many other board-breaking cards. It makes it so that it can never be power crept. Nothing, and yeah, it needs a discard. Like, nothing can stop Super Poly, unless you literally make a card that says your opponent can, like, you can activate this in response to cards that even can't be responded to. Like, fucking, that's, yeah. And now, this seems like the good place. This seems like a great place for Gamecill. Number 8, Gamecill, the Sea Turtle Kaiju. It is a -1, but it stands in for all the Kaijus. It's the best to use Kaijus. And Kaijus change the game forever. There's no boss monster. There's like one boss monster that can't be tributed. The fucking 5 Lights Magician or whatever the hell you call it. But this made all the other... Every boss monster here is outed by a Kaiju. Every monster on this list can be gotten rid of with Gamecill. You can Kaiju over it. And unless they start making cards that can't be tributed, your Gamecill is going to be the thing. Also, Lair of Darkness. Yeah, this stands over Lair of Darkness. This stands over the Monarch Storm 4th, because it does what those do better. It is, like, the best monster removal in the game, even if it is a -1. And then I'm going to put Soul Charge. A lot of people wanted Soul Charge, top 5, I know, but just looking over what we have left, I have to go with this. Because it's fairly newer, it does still have the cost. The cost is sometimes relevant. For most of its life, it was at 1. It's probably one of the most broken spells on here, but it's hard to explain once you get to the top 10. And I just can't beat the fact that, like, you know, Soul Charge is great. Solemn Judgment is greater. What's better than summoning 5 monsters? Stopping your opponent from summoning 5 monsters. It stops just about everything. God says no is like a catchphrase of early Yu-Gi-Oh! And now it's playable again. The fact that Solemn Judgment came back at 3, the fact that it's probably being played at 3, any trap-heavy deck, like fucking Altergeist, playing 3 Solemn Judgment. If we get to a slower format, 3 Solemn Judgment is easily going to be made. If pendulums get big, Solemn Judgment. This is hard to power creep, because it's a counter trap, it negates anything, you can always use it. Even if it costs, there's just so much you could say about it. Ash Blossom, another negate card. And the only reason Ash Blossom goes over Solemn Judgment, Solemn was banned for the longest time. Ash Blossom has not been banned. And also the fact that Ash Blossom, like, changed the way Yu-Gi-Oh! Was played. This is another card that you can judge how the game worked based on how it played before Ash and how it played after Ash. There's cards on here that are good because they can stop Ash, because they play around Ash. And I think that's what you're going to see with, like, a lot of these. And so, okay, with pretty much the rest of these, I'm going to go with Painful Choice. If it ever comes off the ban list, best card in the game. Easily the best spell in just about every deck. Searches everything, gets stuff in the graveyard. There's no reason not to play it. It can be stopped by Ash. So I guess that's it. It's also just like another really iconic card. I'm saying iconic a lot, but that just really... but it's still banned. It's still banned, and we're going to have to put it there. Cyber Dragon at number 3. And for those of you asking why Cyber Dragon at 3, Yu-Gi-Oh! Used to be about the normal summon. Special summons were very, very rare. And a lot of people see Cyber Dragon as the turning point when Yu-Gi-Oh! Changed. When Yu-Gi-Oh! Suddenly became about special summoning. When you could special summon a 2100 for free, like, it just revolutionized the game. And that would be good enough if Cyber Dragon wasn't also used to make Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon, the other, like, fusion thing, if Cyber Dragons in general wasn't a fusion deck, and then an Ixie deck, like, Cyber Dragon is just such a great deck, and the centerpiece card revolutionized Yu-Gi-Oh! And you could still play it today. So, I'm gonna have to say that. Number 2, Scapegoat. Going with Scapegoat. Same thing. Scapegoat. There's a reason people play GOAT format. Scapegoat changed a lot about what Yu-Gi-Oh! Was. It kind of defined that early Yu-Gi-Oh! The fact that it came off the list, and then went back on the list, and then came off, it keeps getting good. And now that we have links, I'm not sure if it'll ever come completely to 3. Summoning 4 monsters, it's just so iconic. And, yeah. If you haven't already guessed it, I kind of planned this from the beginning, and I was thinking maybe if I talked over it, I would change my mind. But Pot of Greed has to be the number 1 Yu-Gi-Oh! Card. Because no one knows what it does. No. The meme is a big important part of it. Like, when you talk about iconic cards, people who don't know Yu-Gi-Oh! Know about Pot of Greed. Pot of Greed is like the only card that was used by, like, it was used by Yugi and it was used by Jaden. It might have been used in other series, I don't know. Pot of Greed is also a card that every deck would play it. Some decks might not want Painful Choice. There is no reason not to play Pot of Greed, because it just lets you get through your deck. It's just a +1 for no cost. And that may not seem like much, but taken in context of Yu-Gi-Oh!, if you look at Yu-Gi-Oh! And compare it to every other card game like Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone, the big thing that defines Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the fact that there is no cost system. There isn't mana, there isn't lands. All you have is card advantage. And Pot of Greed is card advantage. It is card advantage the card, which is why it will never be off the list. But even though it's on the list, it still is the best Yu-Gi-Oh! Card. It's the most representation of our game throughout the generations, throughout time. And with that 4.5 hour long stream, I've made the top 100 Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards of all time. So, thank you all for coming out. Thank you for watching. Thanks to everyone in the chat who helped me make this. Thanks to all the patrons. I don't know who to thank, but thanks to everyone. I've made it. You know what, we're gonna go down it one more time. We'll read it off. And that way, for the people who just came in at the very end, and they just wanted like an annotation, here's the top 100 of all time, without explanation. Number 100, Mechanical Chaser. 99, Skull Servant. 98, The Dark Magician. 97, Blue Eyes White Dragon. 96, Jinzo. 95, Man-Eater Bug. 94, Yatagarasu. Number 3, Chaos Emperor Dragon, Envoy of the End. 92, Cyberstein. 91, Crush Card Virus. Number 90, Cannon Soldier. 89, Sangan. 88, Shooting Star Quasar Dragon. 87, Beals of the Diabolic Dragons. 86, Black Rose Dragon. 85, Stardust Dragon. 84, Summoner Monk. 83, Toon Table of Contents. 82, Gladiator Beast Gyzaris. 81, Gores, the Emissary of Darkness. Number 80, Exodia, the Forbidden One. 79, Legendary Six Samurai Shien. 78, Thunder King Ryo. 77, Grapha, Dragon Lord of Dark World. 76, Gagaga Cowboy. 75, Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. 74, Dark Armed Dragon. 73, Apocryph Cliffort Towers. 72, Dante, Traveler in the Burning Abyss. 71, Masked Hero Dark Law. 70, ABC Buster Dragon. 69, Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. 68, Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning. 67, Lava Golem. 66, Honest. 65, Mystical Space Typhoon. 64, Lone Fire Blossom. 63, Unizombie. 62, That Grass Looks Greener. 61, Crystal Wings Synchro Dragon. 60, Destiny Hero Malicious. 59, Astrograph Sorcerer. 58, Castel the Sky Blasting Musketeer. 57, Zodiac Ratpier. 56, Dragonic Diagram. 55, Amano Iwado. 54, Necro Valley. 53, Naturia Beast. 52, Totally Awesome. 51, Polymerization. 50, Brilliant Fusion. 49, Elemental Hero Stratos. May he always be free. 48, Cyber Dragon Infinity. 47, Magistep Spectre Unicorn Kieran. 46, Heavy Trunade. 45, Blaster Dragon Ruler of Infernos. 44, Gateway of the Six. 43, Link Karibo. 42, Reinforcements of the Army. 41, number 39, Utopia. 40, Danger Tsuchinoko. 39, Dino Wrestler Pankratops. 38, Effect Veiler. 37, Psyframe Lord Omega. 36, Artifact Sanctum. 35, Armageddon Knight. 34, Thousand Eyes Restrict. 33, Crystron Halka Febrax. 32, Compulsory Evacuation Device. 31, Sky Striker Mobilize Engage. 30, Instant Fusion. 30, 29, Upstart Goblin. 28, Lavalval Chain. 27, Called by the Grave. 26, Summoned Sorceress. 25, Mind Control. 24, Nibiru, the Primal Being. 23, Foolish Burial. 22, Pot of Desires. 20, Infinite Impermanence. 19, Boral Sword. 18, Firewall Dragon. 17, Vanity's Emptiness. 16, Raigeki. 15, Monster Reborn. 14, Dark Hole. 13, Harpy's Feather Duster. 12, Graceful Charity. 11, Imperial Order. And the top 10, Skill Drain, Super Polymerization, Gamacil, the Sea Turtle Kaiju, Soul Charge, Solemn Judgment, Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, Painful Choice, Cyber Dragon, Scapegoat, and Pot of Greed. And there you go! There's the list! I made it, Dual Logs! I expect my $20! Top 100 Yu-Gi-Oh cards, baby! I'm out.